These questions of fairness and balance have new challenges with the environment, which we will hear about later today. It adds a whole new dimension. But one aspect of this, which I think is a challenge for the three Abrahamic faiths, is that these calls, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but also the Catholic social teaching, Caritas and Veritate, and the other encyclicals, force us to think about a change from the ancient traditions of charity, which were about the goodness of the heart, about compassion, but which assumed that poverty shall always be with us, because poverty had always been a part of life, to a new paradigm where what we are doing is about justice and rights and fairness, that it is a call to all of us, because we know we can end poverty, we have the obligation to do so. So all of us in our religious traditions are struggling with a change from a commitment that's based on charity and on the goodness of our hearts, and in the traditions of charity, the benefits that the giver receives as well as the receiver, to a very new and different paradigm of equity, which is based far more on justice and on a sense of what it takes, what it calls on us to change this ancient paradigm of inequality and of inequity to one that is a balanced and fair world. I'm going to turn now, and quite briefly, to what I call the gorges. And this brings in the question of the sensitivities around religion. I don't know if you can see this picture, but this is the cartoonist Zapiro, a South African cartoonist who recently got into trouble again because he had a cartoon that portrayed the prophet. But his message here is that religion is stepping on minefields. My personal experience of this is that when the World Bank, one of the first of the international institutions, launched an initiative to work with the worlds of religion through dialogue, which sounded quite bland and relatively unimpeachable, it ran into one of the greatest controversies in the World Bank's history, which lasts to this day. And we spend a great deal of time asking why. And essentially, in reflecting on these gorges between the worlds of religion and the more secular worlds, I come to 3 Ds and an E, and they are very schematically presented here. The first is the sense that, of many, that religion is divisive and political, that it is therefore so sensitive that you cannot touch it, so complex, that the motivations are difficult to discern, that proselytization and conversion are a hidden motive, even, for example, for health care. There are many answers to each of these, which I've presented here. The second is a quite widespread view that religion is against change and therefore against development, that it stands for patriarchy, that it stands for continuity. This is a view that you hear in many cases, and the most vivid examples are gender relations and reproductive health, which go far beyond the issues themselves to much broader understandings of what religion is about and its role. This is something I think we need to work to counter. And the third is a continuing sense that religion, it decreases in importance with modernization, and that therefore it's not a priority. My E, is that many people approach religion emotionally. They approach it with their own experience, and therefore without their brains. And therefore, presenting evidence and case studies is a very important part of crossing the gorges. Looking at it from the other side, many religious groups have been profoundly uneasy about working with the world of development. And there I have 5 schematic E's, that the development institutions are seen as part of empire, of multinationals, of the power of the richer countries, that they are not ethical. There is a war about ethics. Whose ethics? And I would repeat what my former boss, Jim Wolfenson, said time and time again. We cede the ethical high ground to no one. And yet, the language of ethics is a langue de bois, a very weak language. The ethics of effectiveness, whether or not development works, is a source of constant struggle. The sense of a theology of economics, that it's rigid, that it preaches, that it believes in hidden forces, is important. And the enigma of the institutions, with the result that it's seen as dangerous. So against this backdrop, starting really in 9/11, but with many others, we have a resurgence, a burst of interest in interfaith, which is seen within the UN, within many bilateral governments, including the United States, in private circles, a sense that we simply have to deal with religion, and the best way to deal with religion is by dealing with religion not with a single denomination or tradition, but across the board. So all of the major global interfaith institutions are broadening their mandate to look at the development challenge. The Dialogue of Civilizations reflects the United Nations efforts. They're very specific efforts to bridge with the Muslim community, which include the World Economic Forum's Council of 100. But there is a question, which again is a question for us today. To what extent is this the issue of the 21st century? Or to what extent is it something that will pass?